Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Franchise Your Success. And we have our amazing coach and mentor, Dan Olson. How are you doing, Dan?
Oh, always a pleasure to be here with you, Marjorie.
Oh, thank you so much. And today we're going to talk about one of the questions that we got on social media. So we're in the Ask Coach Dan
All
series.
right.
And that question was, what should I do when hiring people for my franchise? So first of all, what are some of the characteristics that you look for when you're hiring people for your franchise?
Well, first of all, let me mention that's critical. When you look at a franchise program over the years that I've dealt with, is that if there's a negative on a franchise side, it's getting and it's getting and keeping the people. Yeah. So I look in the hair salon industry or even automotive industry, getting the good technicians, or massage, getting the good therapists, or whatever it is. In food, it's getting the right people in place. And that can be probably, in some cases, the most challenging part of the business. But we're going to talk about how to overcome that today, it sounds like, from what you're brought up here. And there are lots of ways to do that. And franchising actually gives you an advantage to do that.
Oh, wow.
I mean, when you're working with a little mom and pop over here, sure, it may be a cool thing to be at, but a franchise allows you to have a lot more structure for those employees. They usually need that structure. And so what we look for when we start bringing those employees in is we look for people also that are willing to follow rules. So that's in the food business, for example, a food type franchise, it's going to be a lot of times the younger kids and they're in school.
Yeah.
So some of the questions we're asking them is, how are we doing in school? How do you like school? And if they're able to follow directions in school, getting their assignments done in time and doing things, and a lot of times they're able to follow directions on the job too. They don't have to have super good grades, but just the ability to follow directions is what we look for. And sometimes there's simple little tests to allow us to do that with employees. But getting and keeping the employees is the biggest thing. But once again, franchises have the ability usually to step up the game and allow to have the advantage over other companies that don't have that brand name all over the country.
That's right. And I feel like it also comes to two types of people that you're hiring. Depending on your franchise brand, you may have unskilled people and skilled people. For example, if it's I guess if it's, I don't know, for cleaning services, or like even in the food industry, for example, you need to have a certain certification or something so you can handle food or things like that. Am I right?
Yeah, there's usually food handlers licenses and things like that they need to have, but those are real simple. You get them through, and those are easily done in the food business, for example. But let's take a franchise more like in the medical business. Or you're thinking, are we going to need a doctor or a nurse or a spa type franchise? Sometimes you need that oversight in there. Is that difficult to get on board? Right now, in some of the real high levels where you're looking at high level employees and high level supports, those are some of the easiest ones we can have. So where we have medical support, for example, in a med spa or something like that, you do need a doctor to oversee it. But I actually own one of those businesses. And it's not that difficult. I pay a great MD to come in my franchise, and he comes in on Thursday afternoons for 3 or 4 hours, and he performs his services and does his consultations and oversees what's going on. And he's an MD. And I pay him, I'll just say it, I pay him $500 a week. It's like $2,000 a month. He brings in his malpractice insurance, he brings in himself, he brings in his good name, and
his certifications,
and he's able to do that. So on high level franchises like that, you can tap into some of the better people. And one of the reasons why he likes to associate with us is because we are a franchise, and because we give him certain benefits and opportunities that most other businesses would not.
That's right.
So that's on the high end. And then on the low end, of course, employees that, let me just go back to the medical side thing. One of the things we bring into our program are people who operate our medical equipment. And I don't need to have nurses and doctors operate that. I can operate them with someone who has a CNA license, or I can operate somebody with sometimes even a massage therapy license, or or a medical assistant. So I don't need high-level nurses and pay them all this money to come in and perform the services.
Oh, wow.
So like, for example, a CNA might be in a hospital running around changing bedpans or doing whatever for $15 an hour. I can pay them $25 an hour and give them a skill that they've learned to operate this piece of equipment with training that takes 2 or 3, 4 hours, but and then you have a higher level skill, and they're helping people and not just changing bedpans or sheets or things like that in a hospital, and not running as hard. So I can keep my employees because I have a better service to offer them. So that's what some of the higher end franchises might have. But when you look at something as simple as a food business, that's going to be a little more competitive. But there's ways to hold on to those those employees too. And one of the ways that I like is to offer more benefits. It doesn't have to be a big fancy 401k, because teenagers, 18-year-old, whatever,
they don't even know
what that is. They don't care. They're off to this is an interim job for them anyway.
Right.
But even you get the 20-year-old, 22-year-old, and the 25-year-olds in there sometimes that are starting to work through, and they need the job, and they're wanting they like the idea of the food thing. But what happens when you give them a huge benefit, like the opportunity to earn credit toward acquiring their own business, their own franchise? Domino's, for example, did a lot of that. People would start out as an employee, they'd work way up the system, and they had enough credits and abilities and the financing that came in from the company, they were able to open their own business.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So that's another great thing about franchise. Even at the lower paid employees, like in the food business, there are advantages like that most franchise companies put out there to keep those employees on track.
Right. And that keeps them motivated to actually do something really good for the company that they're working for. So even if it's like a tiny little like food chain that they are working at, just something as simple as like, I'm just going to clean this one piece of equipment. That way everything works more smoothly. I feel like the manager would see that eventually and reward those employees for that. That's really, really cool. Also, when it comes to hiring, do you always keep hiring like year round? Are you always recruiting, like kind of like having a database? Is that something that
these
you would
days
recommend?
you have to always be hiring, it seems like. I mean, you drive by any business these days that has a brick and mortar type business that has employees in it. There's almost always, we're hiring sign, especially in the food business. So you've always got to have that these days, and not that what might happen if we went through recession. And I think we will be headed toward a recession at some point. We're long overdue. But you will always want to have that database and people in mind, and maybe even have a little bit of a bonus when they're ready to come on board. They get some kind of a bonus when they sign on board. And also one of the best ways to get the employees in the past is through referrals. I mean, once you get that first person on board, they want to refer their friends. And so there's an advantage in referring their friends. It could be through a bonus, it could be a special bonus, it could be even a little bit of a raise. When you refer your friend, you get this. And it helps them want to get out there and bring people. I remember doing that all the time when I was growing up, is referring my friends. Because you know what? I wanted to work with my friends and have fun. But even though you met new friends at the business, it's just usually a friendly atmosphere in a franchise situation, because there's more structure to it.
That's right. And I feel like it also keeps getting people motivated to keep working really well at the place that they're at.
Right.
Also, you mentioned that when you are a franchise owner, you need to make sure that you are motivating your employees. So what are some of the ways that you can be a really good boss for your employees?
Oh, wow. That's a whole big, long session, but I'll just give you the quick ones that I use.
Yeah.
What
are some of those
Number one is to be a good leader.
Ooh.
So as a franchisee, even though you're a semi-absentee owned franchise, you're not there on a day-to-day basis. You're having your manager run it. Just show up when you can. Just drop by when you can. That's another advantage of when you open up a single unit franchise, is you want to be able to be there. You want to be able to just drive down the street and pop in. Just pop in and show up. I can't tell you how many employees, just even though they don't see you as much because they're reporting to the manager, but they see the owner come in. Oh, here's the owner. It's a big thing when the owner comes in, especially if you're not there that often. You're running semi-absentee owned. But when you come in, pause as an owner, and get the right mindset. When you walk in the door, hopefully you have that smile on your face and that you're exuding positivity and happiness and good cheer when you walk in, and they will love to see you. Even if you just pop in for 5 minutes. But the other thing, as an owner, you're a leader. So you might go back to the bathroom, for example, take the toilet brush and scrub it down a little bit and do whatever. Show them that nothing is below you to do. Or maybe you come in and you're as an owner, you're going to see something. You're always going to see something you can do. So if you grab, you're almost out of napkins over here. You go and grab the napkins out of the back room and you come in and fill it up. Be the example. It only takes 5 minutes to do a simple little act like that and be a leader. Help them, support them. The other thing that I find is very helpful is be aware of their personal lives. I remember being in the massage businesses and even hair business. Those individuals are great at what they do, and that talented, that art that they perform for that client. But they're also a lot of times when they have a pretty rough life. Single women, for example, where there was a big portion of a lot of the people we hired on board, they had some troubles and they had some difficulties. So don't be afraid to pull in the back room or the break room and talk to them for 10 minutes and let them express their feelings. Let them talk. And you know what? They go back out fired up because the boss, not in this case the boss, but the owner actually took the time to be with me and to listen to me. Just listen.
Out of all the things.
Just listen for a few minutes. So those are just a few of the leadership things that I've seen done, and hopefully I've been able to do fairly well in mine.
That's right, and it really helps a lot. I remember back in the days when I was in high school, I was working for this pizza brand, and it was also a franchise. And I remember the owner coming to me and being like, "Hey, I noticed that you're still in high school. Is there anything that I can do to help you?"
Wow.
And it was so amazing when he said that, because actually my team, we were not able to travel for a competition that we had in the swimming team. And he said, "You know what? Let me sponsor you guys.
Wow.
I'm going to go to you guys' school and I'm going to sponsor you."
Wow.
And that was just amazing. He paid for the trip and everything for us to get to that other state. And it was amazing because all of that was possible just because the owner himself took the time to actually go and talk to someone as little as me. I mean, I'm just 5'3", so I was pretty little. So someone as little as me, just to figure out something that he could do to help. So
that's powerful, Marjorie. That is so huge. Those little things make a difference. And look at you, years later, you remember that.
I still
remember that little act of kindness that owner did, and it wasn't that much of an effort for him to do that.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't that bad. Yeah, it was just like a tiny little bus fare, and that was it. But yeah, in those tiny little things, I noticed that when you are a franchise owner, they can make a really huge impact on the people that you are working with. Yeah. Also. What are some of the no-nos that you shouldn't do when you are a franchise owner?
Yeah, those are really good. Now, a lot of times they're going to make errors. Those employees will make errors, but it's how you approach that error is a teaching moment. And the way that we like to do it is, certainly you might, "Hey, come on over here. I want to show you something here," or you do it gently, or rather than you remember the boyfriend girlfriend type thing. We got to talk.
Oh,
what happens? What happens when you? I don't know if you ever had that, but have you ever had that feeling where you're really kind of hitting it off with that boyfriend girlfriend situation, and you're like, "We need to talk."
Oh no!
And so it's like, okay, you know it's setting up.
That's right.
But if you can gently move into it and say, "Hey, come over, let's check this out." You know, just be nice about it. Hey, just be happy. Just be uplifting.
That's right.
You know, this was left on last night. We kind of need to make sure we turn this off here, and here's why. Always tell the why behind it. And then when you're through pointing out that gently that situation, then you come back and you uplift them some way. You lift them always. Give them that little bit of love. So that's the last thing they see from you today is that little bit of love. Hopefully they remember that piece, but they'll also remember the instruction you gave them on the important piece that they needed to correct with.
That's right, because I mean, we are all human. We all make mistakes or even forget stuff. So it's always good as an owner, I think, that you're always there with the people that are working in your team, making sure that they remember everything by showing them yourself and being that example for them. Also, what are some of the ways that other ways that you have taken care of your employees to make them happy, to make sure that they're still motivated?
Oh, wow. A lot of times it doesn't necessarily come down to the money. Sure, it's nice to have a little bit of money there once in a while, but sometimes they come to expect that. And that's not always going to be available for them. So
Right.
I think some of the higher powering of motivation is recognition and helping them to feel good about what they've done and recognize them in front of others, especially with themselves. But also building that culture and listening to them. People like to be listened to. So sometimes it's a matter of letting them just spill their feelings, and you don't have to fix it. You don't have to say, well, if we did this, this, and this, it would take care of it. I have a tendency to sometimes to be Mr. Fix-It.
Right.
As a coach, you want to fix people, you want to help it. You know the solution. I know the solution. We'll take care of it. But just let them talk.
Right.
And listen. That makes a huge difference in their lives and how they move forward and how they perform for you as a franchisee. So, and I think that goes a long way of building the culture. And a lot of the times I see in these small franchises, for example, the owner of of a hair salon franchise, I remember what he did one time that made a huge difference. He says, okay, in the back of the salon, he had these goals. Here's the goals we want to achieve. And if we achieve these goals, here's what we're going to do. And so obviously he's making the extra money. So he was able to supply some of those funds to help this effort. So what he did is he was able to say, okay, we're going to go out after we reach this goal this week, and I'm going to take you in a limousine ride, and we're going to go over here and have a special dinner, and we're going to go have fun. So it was a Hawaiian type place. So everybody wore their Hawaiian outfit, and they were picked up in a limousine. Everybody went together, and they had this little dinner, and they had this little special room, and they had all this fun together. But the owner really appreciated them. He expressed his appreciation to every employee at that dinner. They remembered that forever. How many employers do that? Not too many. And that's one of the things that it gets around the franchise system. Oh, I'm going to do that in mine too. That's part of being a franchisee, is you hear all these great ideas going on in these other parts of the country that you can take and use and plug in
to keep your staff motivated.
To keep yourself going too.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Dan. And thank you to our audience. So now you know, if you want to be a great boss, don't treat your people as your employees. They're your family. Treat them as your family.
Yeah, exactly.
The most important thing you can do for your employees is to treat them as your family. Alrighty. Well, so see you on the next episode. And thank you so much again, Dan.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.